Cascade Hoops Talk, Billy D. Join us on Twitter, Cascade Hoop Talk. Hey, today we have Ryan Haskins from Ottawa University, this all-conference player. He started 64 games in 2 seasons at Ottawa. He scored more than 800 points, almost 200 rebounds, and over 150 assists in those 2 seasons. Welcome, Ryan. Thank you for coming on.
I appreciate you having me today.
So, Ryan, you played high school basketball at Osage City High School. You played in 2 Kansas boys basketball state tournaments. You had a state championship in your senior year. You're a 4-time all-conference, honorable mention all-state as a junior, first team as a senior. You were named to Kansas boys state basketball tournament, all-tournament first team. Just talk about that high school career and, your career with Osage there.
Yeah, I was pretty fortunate to come to Osage City High School. We've always had a pretty successful basketball program, and I played with some great players over the years throughout high school, and I definitely learned from people who I watched growing up play, and I think that helped me a lot. When I got to high school, I knew what the coaches expected of me, and I think that led to a lot of success for us as a team.
So many players dream about winning a championship, a state championship in high school. I mean, what was that like?
That was a huge confidence booster for me as an athlete. We made it to the state tournament my junior year, and we lost in the first round, but we had a great group of guys coming back for my senior year, and I felt like we could take the next step and do some damage at the state tournament the next year. And we got to the state championship. We were playing our best basketball towards the end of the year, and definitely it was some memories that I'll never forget. But taking that next step was huge for me towards being a successful college athlete for sure.
So Ryan, you obviously played basketball, but you played baseball, football, even golf for the Indians. How did you decide you were going to play basketball in college?
I think that's just the sport that I spent the most time with. I was pretty good at all the sports growing up. Coming from a small high school, you're kind of forced to do all the sports, and I was pretty successful at all the sports throughout high school, but I put the most time in basketball, and everybody knew that I wanted to play basketball first before any other sport. So I kind of went into my senior year of high school open to playing football or a different sport in college, but I really wanted to play basketball, and I knew I could do it at the next level.
Ryan, was it more a love for the game, or that just where your skills took you?
I think it was a love for the game. There's pictures of me growing up when I'm at my sister's basketball games or volleyball tournaments, whatever, and they always see me with a basketball at halftime as I was shooting a basketball. So I think I always had a basketball growing up, and I think that stuck with me, my love for the game. And I mean, my dad didn't force me to play a specific sport, and he was a football player, but he knew that basketball was my first love as a sport, and he didn't try to force anything on me.
So you graduate from high school. You made the decision to attend Highland Community College. Talk about how you chose Highland.
Well, I had some pretty good teammates in high school, so I felt like I was a little under-recruited. So I decided to go to a junior college at Highland Community College. It was really one of the only schools that actually recruited me out of high school, because in high school I didn't have the best scoring stats or the best assist stats, but I sent some films out to all the junior colleges, and Highland was the one that hit me back on my emails, and I sent out my film to them. And I don't know, I came in there and I didn't know what to expect, and the coach gave me a great opportunity there, and I definitely can't thank him enough for the opportunity that he gave me at Highland Community College, because it definitely made me a better basketball player and a tougher basketball player.
Hey, you guys really had some good teams those 2 years you were there. Combined, you went 50-9. You started 56 of those games in your 2 years. You had the opportunity to play with a couple of future teammates, Andre Jackson, Jaquan Daniels. Talk about those great teams those 2 years at Highland.
Coming in on my visit to Highland, one thing that stuck out to me is they said they always had the talent there. It was just getting one team to buy in to get the train rolling there. And I felt like our team, my freshman year, really bought into the coach's system and what they believed in. And that brought continued success for years to come there now. They've been successful since my freshman year. They've had 20-win-plus seasons there. And it's just kind of setting the culture is what we did. And then we've built off it year after year. And now they seem to get it going. And I'm glad that I got Andre and Jaquan Daniels at Ottawa now. I've kept close with them from my freshman year to now. And adding them to the team this year just really provided us to take the next step in being a successful program at Ottawa.
So Ryan, I got to ask you about something. At your time at Highland. I mean, you've always been a good shooter. You shot really well from the floor your freshman year, but between your freshman year and your freshman year, you didn't shoot free throws very well. You had 70%. Okay, and then your next year you improved 20% to almost 90%. Was there an effort? Did you put an effort in there to improve your free throw shooting?
I think that just came with experience. I mean, at a junior college, it's kind of similar to a 4-year. Your second year, you're expected to do more. So the second year, you're expected as the leader of the team to make those big free throws at the end of the game. And that's really been a focus of mine is if I'm going to be the one with the ball at the end of the games, I got to be able to shoot free throws and I got to be able to step up to the line and make them. And I've always kind of added pressure on myself when I go shoot free throws. I add some extra running if I don't make a specific amount of free throws, and I think that's helped me with my percentages at the free throw line over my 4 years.
Well, it definitely helped out because even at Ottawa, you shot almost 80% from the line. You shot, I mentioned you shot really well from behind the arc at Highland. You mentioned you weren't really recruited coming out of Osage. Did that start to open some eyes? Did you get some attention at that point?
Yeah, I think definitely my shooting percentages played a big part of it, but in high school, I think the sub-state semifinals game, I had a breakout game where they shut down our best player, and he was being productive because he was taking 3 to 4 people on him to guard him, but they would leave me open, and that gave me a bunch of confidence going into my freshman and sophomore year of college, knowing that I can make those shots if given the opportunity. And I think the coach at Highland gave me the ultimate green light to take those shots, and that built my confidence up tremendously over the last 3 to 4 years.
So when you finished up there at Highland, you were obviously going to have to go somewhere else after community college. Ottawa recruited you. Were they primarily looking for a shooter? What was Ottawa looking for?
I think they were looking for a toughness guy and a winner who came from a winning program. And I had a great relationship with some of the assistant coaches there before I committed to Ottawa University, and they recruited me the whole season. They showed me continuous love throughout the season, texting me after games, letting me know that they're paying attention to our scores and my stats and how I'm doing in the classroom. And they really just made me feel like Ottawa would be a place where I could call home for the next couple of years before I graduated school. So that definitely played the part of me going there.
What was your feel for the campus when first time you visited there?
It was a very small campus, kind of like Highland Community College, but I don't mind that at all. I actually, coming from a small town, the smaller the place, I think I fit in better. So, and I really gelled with all the guys on my visit. They made me feel like I could be a part of something special at Ottawa, and that I could have some great relationships that last further than just basketball, for sure.
I want to talk about your time at Ottawa, but one thing, Ryan, that really jumps out at me, in your 2 years at Ottawa, you had almost a 3-to-1 turnover ratio. You started at 64 games, and you averaged just 1 turnover per game, and you were on the court as a guard. I mean, have you always been stingy with the basketball? Why do you think you were so successful? That's phenomenal.
It probably goes back to probably my freshman year of high school. I used to turn the ball over a lot because I got thrown into it in high school as a freshman, being the point guard. And I would throw some crazy passes, and I would get taken out of the game. And I had to learn real quickly because I didn't have a backup to come in and take my spot. But basically, my high school coach taught me the fundamentals of basketball, really doing the fundamentals, making the passes, rather than throwing one-handed passes or behind-the-back passes. He just always taught me to keep it simple, and I think that's carried over to the college level. I've always tried to keep it simple, get it to the teammates when they need to get the ball, and don't try to force anything too much.
So in your junior year, Isaiah Palmer, Tasmania, Indiana Jones, you teamed up as a trio. You were a scoring juggernaut. Talk about playing with those two guys.
Isaiah and Taz, those were some of the best players athletically and talent-wise that I've played with in my 4 years of college. the conference was loaded my junior year. So our top 4 teams were on any given night going to beat any team in the country. We had Oklahoma Wesleyan and Southwestern and friends who had arguably they probably had 5 All-Americans between the 3 teams right there. We felt between Taz, Isaiah, and myself that we could do something. Towards the end of the year, we started playing better, and Isaiah, if he got on a roll, nobody could really stop him. And Taz in the post, he's just an athlete that I've never seen before. I've never seen somebody as big as him jump as easily as him. It was pretty impressive to watch for sure.
You know, that junior season, Ryan, you started out pretty good. You went 10-5 going into January, and 3 of those losses were early on to upper division schools. And then when January started, you got into, as you talked about, that tough conference, and you went 5-5. What was the mood of the team in that? It was kind of a mid-season slump, and you had such great scores. How was that frustrating? What do you think you had to do to turn it around?
We just had to stay the course and really trust one another. Our team at Ottawa is based off a lot of junior college players, so it's tough to gel right away. So we knew there would be some bumps in the road along the way, but if we stayed the course, we felt like we could be successful and compete with any team in our conference towards the end of the year. And I think that showed as we beat Oklahoma Wesleyan, we beat Southwestern towards the end of the season. Those were the guys that we were really striving to beat. Those were the guys we circled on our schedule at the beginning of the year to beat.
Yeah, Ryan, you talked about that. But yeah, it was a big win, a huge win. Oklahoma Wesleyan was ranked number 1, number 2. You know, they were ranked as one of the best teams in the country all season. You beat them late in the year, and then you got into the tournament. You beat Kansas Wesleyan. You controlled that game, and then that set up another match with Oklahoma Wesleyan, who you had just knocked off. Again, one of the best teams in the country. How'd you feel about that matchup going into that game?
I mean, once we beat Oklahoma Wesleyan at home, that kind of gave us our confidence, so we could beat them at any given point if we can't come with the right mindset. And I mean, we really gave them our best shot in the tournament. We were up 10 at halftime, I think, and then they kind of went on a run. They had some great players on their team. I mean, they had Brooks Haddock, Tipton, guys that played this year, and then Will Chomby, I think was his name, the big guy. He was really impressive big man. That they had a really good point guard also. So we knew we had to play our best basketball to beat them, and we were one or two possessions away from winning the game. But we definitely felt like we gave them our best shot.
Yeah, despite losing that game, you finished that season on a high note. But this season, you know, you come in, you know, you lose Isaiah Palmer, you lose Tasmania, Indiana Jones. How did you feel about the team coming into this season? What did you think your challenges were?
Our challenges, really, we didn't know who was going to be our leading scorer, who was going to be our go-to guy. We didn't know that. I mean, we knew Daryl was really good, but we didn't know that he was going to hit 4 or 5 game winners to get us jump-started in the conference schedule this year. We didn't expect that, but somebody every year in college that I played with has stepped up to a role that you didn't expect them to go to. And then he took over, and he was kind of our go-to guy, and we leaned on him to make big plays for us down the stretch this year. But, no, we felt like we were going to be better defensively than we were last year, but we didn't know where our scoring was going to come from. So figuring that out early in the season was definitely a big part in our success.
You know, I wanted to ask you about that because Daryl, you know, he only played in 22 games, I think, the season before. He hadn't really been a breakout player, but he did the second half of his junior year, he started to break out. Did you have that sense at all? Did you think, wow, this guy might really come on this year?
I've noticed that since the open gyms that Daryl kind of had that act to score, and he kind of has a will to win where if he's on a roll and we're going at all and we're going at our best, he's going to will us to a win if we need it at all possible. He can score the tough baskets, he can make the right passes, and he's just an all-around great offensive player.
So I have a question. You know, Daryl Bowie turned out to be just a phenomenal player, Kansas Conference Player of the Year, second team All-American. Did you guys think, I mean, what was the conversation amongst you guys that the possible Conference Player of the Year never started?
I mean, we definitely didn't. Daryl didn't mind coming off the bench. That was a great thing about Daryl is we had 2 pretty good point guards, but very different point guards. Jackson Mallory was one of our passing point guards, and he could really distribute the ball. And we would if we got off to a rough start, we had Daryl come in, and he could just light it up real quick and get us back into a game if we had a bad start to a game. And that was the perks of having him come off the bench, is we could be off to a very slow start, and then 2 minutes later, Daryl could come in and hit 3 or 4 threes in a row, and we'll be right back in the game.
Well, whatever it was, it definitely worked.
We definitely could have started him in the starting lineup, but I don't think Daryl really cared for starting, so I don't think he minded coming off the bench, because that was just kind of he came into the game knowing he was going to come off the bench, and he knew that he was going to score the ball when he came off the bench, and we asked him to score the ball, and I think that helped our team a lot. Having our leading scorer and player of the year be that unselfish to come off the bench is you don't see that very often.
So, Ryan, coming into your senior season, you guys had some very tough duty. Thank you for taking one to the team. You had to go down to the Virgin Islands to kick off the season. Boy, that must have been some tough duty right there.
Oh yeah, that was a blast. I think that's what really our chemistry was good to start the season, but going down to the Virgin Islands and really spending a week down there together as a team really helped our team chemistry together for the whole season. I mean, we played 2 pretty tough teams down there. We played the Virgin Islands and then Wilberforce University, and they were teams we weren't familiar with. So, and if we wanted to make it to the national tournament, we were going to play teams that we weren't familiar with. And
right.
I think seeing those teams that we weren't familiar with at the beginning of the year and not having much time to prep for the second game day helped a lot, because at the national tournament we weren't going to get a lot of prep time before we played our games after we won the first game. We had to go in and rely on what we worked on all season and trust it.
So unlike last season, you guys get a good start right out of the gate. You head into conference, first game in conference, right in front of you again, there's Oklahoma Wesleyan. How pumped up were you guys for that game?
Like I said with the year before, we always have Oklahoma Wesleyan and Southwestern circled on our schedule because those are the 2 toughest teams in the conference on paper. We thought they would be the teams to beat in the conference. So we had them circled. We knew we had them right off the bat, and you could look at it like, well, gosh, we could get off to an 0-2 start. Well, this team this year thought what a great opportunity it would be to get off to a 2-0 start in conference and beat, on paper, the 2 top teams that were picked in the preseason to finish the conference.
And you guys were able to get that done. I wanted to ask you about that Oklahoma Wesleyan game. You guys were up by 10 with a minute to go, and then Brooks Haddock, I think he scored 9 points in the final 50 seconds. Do you remember the last minute of that game?
We were just trying to fight to the end because we knew that with Brooks Haddock, he could get on a run like no other. And you've seen it at the national tournament. I think he had 33, 34 points in the first round game. If he gets on a roll, he's arguably one of the toughest players to stop in the country. He definitely was their go-to guy this year that we had to scout and stay with him the whole time. For the most part, that game we did a good job on him, but towards the end he got on a little bit of roll and kind of made us sweat it out a little bit.
Yeah, but you hung on for the win. But he did put on a show against Spring Arbor as well.
Yeah.
Hey Ryan, I got a question for you. You're a scorer. Who is the toughest guy in the conference to score against?
Best defender would probably be there's a point guard from Kansas Wesleyan who does a pretty good job defensively, and he's always staying in my pocket and making sure I don't get off any clean shots. But as a team, probably St. Mary's does a really good job of throwing a lot of bodies at me, where if I'm shooting a 3, I'll pump fake, and then they'll have another guy coming out at me. So it makes it tough as a shooter to get in really any type of rhythm against them.
So they're just real disruptive to your.
Yeah, really disruptive, and they kind of mess up the flow of the game when I'm trying to get a shot off. They send one body and I got a pump fake, and then I might dribble one step in and shoot again. That they'll have another body coming at me. So it was really a mind game the first time we played them.
You know, Ryan, this season you guys only lost 2 straight games once. You lost a home game to McPherson. That must have been disappointing. And then you had to go to Oklahoma Wesleyan. You lost there. You know, in those 2 games, did the morale of the team ever break at all? Or
yeah, it was a weird timing because our game against McPherson, I remember we were supposed to play it on a Saturday, and then it got canceled and pushed back to Monday. I think it was a home game against McPherson, and then I think the national championship game that was that night. And usually if we have a packed crowd at Wilson Fieldhouse, we feed off our students, and it was kind of it wasn't packed that night, so our students didn't show up, so we had to make our own energy, and we just couldn't find the energy that night to will ourselves over the top to beat McPherson. Then Oakland Wesleyan at their place is very tough to beat. I've never beat them at Oakland Wesleyan. In my 2 years at Ottawa, it's a very tough place to win, and we hung with them. We just couldn't get over the hump. But, I mean, it's tough to win on the road in any conference, especially the KCAC, and we let it slip, but we didn't let it break our team up.
Where is the hardest place, the toughest place to play in the conference?
It's probably, for sure, Oakland Wesleyan. That's the only place I don't think I've won at in my 2 years at Ottawa. There's definitely some crazy crowds. Avila is a pretty hostile environment, but no, I think Oakland Wesleyan is definitely they have an amazing arena, and they have a packed crowd almost every night, so that's always fun to look forward to when you know it's going to be a packed arena.
So after those 2 losses, you guys regrouped. You won 11-2, and that brought you to the KCAC Conference Tournament Championship. Ryan, you guys had been in the top 10 pretty much all season. You won the conference outright. How determined were you guys to beat Oklahoma Wesleyan and just take that tournament trophy and show that the KCAC was yours this year?
We were very determined to win that tournament. I mean, it was just, we knew we were going to the national tournament regardless, but we wanted to be playing our best basketball at the right time of the year. So we wanted to win that game against Oklahoma Wesleyan very badly. And we knew we'll always look back and know that we don't think we gave them our best shot in that championship game. And they're a great team that they deserve to win that night, but it would be nice to go back and do some things differently in that game if we could.
Now that game was played at a neutral site, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was at Hartman Arena in Park City.
Was there a good crowd there? Was it a big arena? I don't know much about that area.
It's a very big arena, but there was a lot of people there, but just looking at it, since it was such a big arena, it might have not looked like there was a lot of people there. So I think they might be changing our conference tournament layout where they play in a neutral site or at a home site for the higher seeds starting next year. I'm not really sure about that.
Yeah, sometimes in those big arenas, I'm thinking, Ryan, like at the Pentagon, where you get it's kind of a low energy atmosphere because unless you're playing Briarcliff or Morningside or somebody, there's just hardly anybody in there.
It was a huge arena. In the Pentagon, there's a background, at least a little bit of a background. There's no background at the Hartman Arena, so it was a different shooting arena, and that might have played a difference. And we did not shoot the ball well in that championship game, and we lived and died by the 3-point line the whole season.
Well, you lost that game. Did that change your did that fuel your preparation for the tournament?
We were frustrated because we lost to a team that we felt like we could have beat, but I mean we had to throw that game away because we had bigger games ahead of us. And I mean we had a few bad days of practice going into the national tournament, but for the most part, I felt like once we got to South Dakota, we were going to focus back in and be ready to play against Concordia.
Yeah, you get to Sioux Falls, your match with Concordia. How'd you feel about the matchup, and what were you concerned about with them?
Well, they could shoot the ball like no other. I mean, we watched them on film, and we were like, is this team really a 7 seed? Because on the film, they really shot the ball well. I mean, their guards and even their big guy, who I think he only averaged about 5 points going into the game. He scored about 20 points against us. So they definitely play the same style of basketball that we played, and it came down to the final seconds, and I'm glad we had 3 more points than they did at the end because we didn't lead the whole game there.
As you said, they played really well, and Concordia was a very good team. I thought you're right; they were much better than a 7 seed. In fact, a lot of people, including myself, thought they might upset you. But in that game, Jaquan Daniels and Darryl Bowie really scored the ball well down the stretch. But I thought your athleticism, you guys really turned up the defense. I'm going to say it like the 6-minute mark. You were down by 10 or 7-minute mark. Talk about your defense down the stretch in that game.
I mean, we could tell the whole game at the 8-minute mark that they were pretty tired. We could just tell our athleticism was wearing them down, and then having a 10-day break from the conference championship game to the national tournament some teams it's tough to get a second win, but our depth really came into a factor the last 8 minutes of the game being down. I think we were down 12 with 8 minutes to go, and we put the press on him, and Jaquan Daniels gets a couple steals, and I think he scored about 10 of our 12 points coming back to tie the game up.
So you guys inched your way back into the game primarily with defense. You guys got the ball, 20 seconds to go. You're down by 2. Do you remember that possession, Ryan?
Yeah, we called a timeout, and
talk us through it.
I'll probably remember that possession for the rest of my life. But we ran a play called Atlanta, which we practice almost every day. We always run our sets before we get into practice, and we run Atlanta every day. Daryl will go to the right side of the floor. Jaquan will go act like he's setting a screen, and Daryl will take it baseline, and then we have a back screen for me in the corner. And we've actually never really ran it in a game before.
Mallory gets a screen, finds Bowie. Baseline in the corner. 3 ball on the way is up and good by Haskins. Off the bench, delivers a cold-blooded 3. Ryan Haskins puts his team up by 1 with 15 seconds to go. What a shot.
I mean, just practicing it in practice all the time and staying ready for whenever we need it in a game really, really helped. Even though you think we might not ever use it, it came into play the last possession of the year.
During the timeout, did you look at Coach Siebenthal and say, "Give me the ball, Coach, I'll score it"?
My thought in my head was I had made a 3 in the game at the national tournament, and I had made a 3 in every single game at Ottawa in my 65 games that I've played there. So I was like, well, if I get one more chance to shoot a 3, I got to make it, because I don't want to end my last game ever missing or not making a single 3. So I knew if Daryl was to kick the ball to me, I had to knock it down.
He got you the ball in the corner. You had some space, and you nailed it.
I had to fire away.
You went up by 1. You guys, I don't think they got another shot up, did they? I think you stole it on the next possession.
Daryl got a steal. They tried running a isolation at the free throw line against him, and Daryl read it well and got a steal that could have been called a foul, but I'm glad they didn't.
You hit the winning shot in the final NAI Division II game. You ever thought about that?
It's one of those things that really hasn't really got to my head yet, and I'll always remember the shot, but I hadn't really sat down to think about that I really hit the last game-winning 3 at the NAI National Tournament before they canceled the tournament. So it's pretty cool to know that our team finished the last game of the season with a win at the Pentagon, which is a great venue to play at.
Tell me about the moment you found out the tournament was canceled.
I mean, we went into this locker room feeling pretty good about ourselves, and we didn't play very well in that game. We came back, we won by 1. We went to the locker room, we celebrated, and knew who we had to play the next day. And then 2 minutes later, if that, our coach comes in and tells us that the tournament's canceled. And we didn't want to believe him at first, but we knew going into that day that something might end up happening, because all the rest of the sports world was shutting down. All the seasons were getting canceled. And we just didn't. We knew that if we got the opportunity to play, we had to make the most of it, because we didn't know if we were going to get to finish the tournament or not.
You know, Ryan, I believe you're the luckiest guy in college basketball, luckiest senior in college basketball this season, because you finished on the highest note you could possibly finish on. You hit the winning shot of the final game you played.
I do feel pretty fortunate that I was the one to get to take the shot, and that my coaches and my teammates had the belief in me that I can make that shot. And it is a great feeling knowing that we did win a game at the national tournament, but it kind of eats at me every day. I'll think about it. What could we have done at the national tournament? We'll never know.
Absolutely.
Now that the season's canceled, but I'm glad we definitely made the most of the tournament. We got a win down there. We'll be able to say that we had a successful tournament at least.
Ryan, what has it meant to you to be part of Ottawa Brave basketball?
It's meant a lot to me the last 2 years. I mean, when I came in, they had went 12-16, and they had a lot of talented players, and then we built on that my junior year, and then we really took it to another level my senior year. So to see the turnaround of the program in such a short period of time is pretty awesome to watch, and I'll definitely be able to follow it being Ottawa is very close to my hometown, so I'll be able to go over there and watch them play next season and stay in touch with all the teammates that I played with this year, as well as watch the new guys that they bring in.
Hey, can you say just a couple words about Coach Siebenthal? He's built a great program there.
Oh yeah, Coach Siebenthal is a great coach, and he's a player's coach. He is a very laid back coach, and he is some guy you can talk to at any point in the day, and he's gonna be as honest as he can with you. At the same time, he wants to win, and that's a really awesome coach to play for. It's, I don't know how to explain it, but it's both my coaches in college they're two different styles of coaching, and I've learned a lot from both of them. And since I want to get into the coaching profession, I can definitely take things that I've learned from both of them to my future coaching career.
Well, that was going to be my next question. What's next for you after Ottawa University?
I actually have to come back in the fall to do my student teaching. I'm an elementary education major, so
Okay.
I'll be doing my student teaching in the fall, and then I haven't decided quite yet if I'm going to pursue a master's degree right out of school or wait a few years. But I definitely want to be a graduate assistant somewhere. If not Ottawa University, I've had talks with Coach Siebenthal about doing that, and I just got to wait for my opportunity to come. And if it does, I'll make the most of it.
Well, I hope that's something that works out for you, and I think that's great that you want to teach young people. I'm sure you'll do a wonderful job, a very rewarding career.
Oh yeah, for sure. I have a family tree of elementary education majors, so learning from my sisters and my mom growing up played a big part in me wanting to be a teacher someday, and I feel like I can make a big impact on the kids like teachers made an impact on me growing up.
Ryan, I really appreciate you taking the time, being on the show, sharing your story.
Appreciate you having me. Have a good day.